So thank you all for being here, and thanks again to the Human Rights Center for funding me this summer and for holding this conference. As a way to introduce you to my partner organization, I'd first like you to take just 10 seconds and think about your values. And specifically, I'd like you to think about a time in your life where you took an action that demonstrated those values. So think about a time where you faced a challenge, you made some sort of choice, and you realized a hopefully positive outcome. So this is one of the exercises that women go through when they participate in a workshop run by Resonate, which is my partner organization. And Resonate's goal is to teach women leadership skills through storytelling. And when I say storytelling, I'm really talking about building powerful personal narratives. So for instance, this is Benin, and Benin participated in Resonate's very first workshop in Rwanda a few years ago. And at that workshop, she learned how to tell a story about how she had moved far from home after completing high school in order to earn enough money to pay off her secondary school fees and earn an official high school diploma. And since that time, Benin has gone on to study engineering, even when everyone told her that that was a field for men. And she currently works as a trainer at Resonate, trying to inspire other women and girls with her story. So Resonate's participants all have stories that are just as inspiring as Benin's, but my job this summer was to try to quantify the effect that Resonate's workshops have on the women who participate. Now, as an economist, there's a pretty standard way to do this type of impact evaluation. It's called a randomized control trial. The idea is pretty simple to understand. You have a population of people who you'd like to study, and you decide to randomly divide them between treatment and control groups. And the idea is that when you randomly divide people into treatment and control groups, the two groups are going to be the same on average. And that means that once the treatment group participates in the intervention that you're studying, which for my case is Resonate's workshop, you can then track them over time and attribute any changes that you see to the intervention itself. So as I started thinking about how to design this type of evaluation for Resonate, it occurred to me that it would be interesting to see changes in end-line outcomes, so thinking about income or the number of women leaders in a village. But that wasn't really going to tell me what was actually happening during one of Resonate's workshops, and it wasn't going to tell me anything about why it was happening. So I took a step back and I started looking at Resonate's theory of change. Now in Resonate's theory of change, women who participate in workshops increase their self-confidence and their comfort in public speaking very quickly. And after that, that leads to an increase in their decision-making power, both in their households but in their communities more broadly. And at the end of the day, they're hoping that that leads to women taking on more leadership roles. So at this point, I've understood Resonate's theory of change, and I was trying to think about how I could actually use economics to study what Resonate was doing. So I then went through a process of mapping Resonate's theory of change into the economic literature. And so I was looking for ideas that economists had already thought about that could explain what happens during one of Resonate's workshops. So that led me to this idea of aspirations. And aspirations, at least in the way that economists study them, can be understood in two parts. The first is just an aspirations window, so that defines what you aspire to. And the second part is an aspirations gap. So that's the difference between where you are now and where you aspire to be. In that sense, aspirations failures can happen for a couple of reasons. One could be that your aspirations window is too small. So maybe there are certain things that you don't even know are possible, and so you don't even know that you should be or could be aspiring to those things. The other problem can happen when your aspirations gap is too large. So if you know where you'd like to be, but it seems really far away, and it's not clear how you could get there, you also might not even attempt it. So this is something that I heard could play out, and I could see playing out for Rwandese women in a couple of ways. One, a lot of Rwandese women probably don't have leadership positions within their aspirations window, because at the local level, a lot of leaders are going to be male. Now, for anyone who knows anything about Rwanda, that could seem really surprising, because Rwanda actually has the highest proportion of female parliamentarians of any country in the world. But for a lot of Rwandese women, those female parliamentarians are not very attainable role models, right? And so, in that sense, these Rwandese women are facing potentially both problems of aspirations windows and aspirations gaps. So with that in mind, I designed a study that borrows tools from psychology and combines them with more traditional tools from economics, and over the next year, I'll be measuring things like self-confidence, self-efficacy, and aspirations, along with more traditional economic measures for women who are participate in one of Resonate's workshops. So at the end of the day, you also might be wondering why we should care about this. Rwanda is a country with a lot of problems and with a lot of issues, and it can seem like something as fluid as self-confidence might not be worth our time. So I think the answer here, for me at least, comes from the economist Amartya Sen, who tells us that the expansion of freedom is viewed both as the primary end and as the principal means of development. So my argument, and what Resonate is trying to do, is justify women's leadership as something that we need to embrace as a goal in itself for development, and teaching women how to have the confidence to appropriately access their full range of human rights is something that has inherent value. And then, in addition, we are going to think that that also is going to help us drive development more equitably and more broadly. Thank you.